everyone in 2022 meeting of the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. I'd like to ask everyone to stand while we have the presentation of the colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Would you please remain standing for our invocation by Commissioner Jason Hester?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for the blessings that you've given us. We thank you for allowing us to live in such a great country and a great state. Lord, we ask that you be with everyone that is here. We ask that you bless and take care of all of our law enforcement and first responders. We ask for a hedge of protection around them and keep them safe and bring them home to their families. Guide us as we make decisions today, Lord, that they be pleasing to you. Forgive us where we fail you. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. You may be seated. Ms. Flott, would you please take roll?
Commissioner Lameau.
Here.
Commissioner Hester.
Here.
Commissioner Burris.
Present.
Commissioner Hood.
Here.
Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Griffiths.
Here.
Commissioner Lascano.
Present.
Commissioner Lamont Dixon.
Here.
Commissioner Barry.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here today. On behalf of the TCOLE staff and the TCOLE commissioners, we are so excited to be down here in the Valley with you today. We appreciate so very much the warm welcome that we've received from everyone, and thank you for your hospitality. This is the first time that we have held a TCOLE meeting here in this region of the state, so we're very, very pleased to be here, and we have several people to thank today for being here and for their support. So I would like to first of all thank the Honor Guard, which was made up of Officer Delviar from Edinburgh Police Department, Officer Puckett from the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley Police Department, Officer Claudio Macias from the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office, and Officer Ernesto Trevino from Edinburgh Consolidated Independent School District. So to have folks coming together for a presentation of colors, in addition to the wonderful national anthem by Officer Joe Vega from Edinburgh Police Department, let's give them a round of applause, please. And we have many, many very special guests that have blessed us with their presence this morning, so thank you so very much for being here. And I know that they wanted to say a couple of words also. So first we have Senator Juan Hinojosa.
We're in Corpus Christi. You had your conference there. Lieutenant Governor Patrick was also there. Now you're here in the beautiful Rio Grande Valley and City of Edinburgh, the all-American city. And congratulations to a new commissioner, Liscano. I'm sure he will do a great job. But I have to tell you, you will find out that here in the Rio Grande Valley is one of the safest regions, some of the safest place in the state of Texas and in this great nation of ours. With great law enforcement from our DPS, Border Patrol, all the police departments, our sheriff, our constables, all working together to keep this community safe. Thank you for your leadership and the training you provide. For me, as state senator, I'm very happy to see the different commissions. We also probably need some of the state agencies to have some of the meetings outside the city of Austin to get to know the people, to get to know the communities, and get feedback from constituents, from our citizens, as to what they think, what they need, what's important to each community. So, wow, thank you again. Hope you have a very successful meeting today. And as always, session is just around the corner in about 3 weeks or so. So please come by and visit anything you may need to make your job easier and make sure that our law enforcement here in the state of Texas have all the resources they need to do their job and protect our communities and our families. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so very much, sir. We next have State Representative Armando Martinez.
Hello, good morning, and what a great honor to be here today. And I know we have some great commissioners, and Mr. Liscano, who's from the Valley, but I want to especially say that Commissioner Barres and I were childhood friends, so it's great to see that you have some wonderful additions to this commission, and I applaud you for all your hard work, and especially to all our law enforcement friends out there. Thank you for so much and everything that you do to keeping us safe. As a fellow firefighter that is beloved by many, we love our law enforcement as well, and worked with many people that have been here in the audience, and look forward to that. As your state representative for District 39 for the Mid-Valley, we may not represent Edinburgh, but we do represent the state of Texas. So may God bless you, and may God bless Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have Congresswoman-elect Monica De La Cruz.
Good morning, and I just want to say thank you so much for being here in this great city of Edinburgh and in the Rio Grande Valley. We welcome you and we invite you back. As your new Congresswoman, the Congresswoman for Texas 15, I am was proudly endorsed by both TMPA and CLEAT and the National Border Patrol Council. And because of that, it brings me great happiness to see everybody here. And I want you to know that I support any legislation that would help our brave law enforcement officers and our Border Patrol agents. So God bless you. God bless all of our officers who are here today. And I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have the mayor of Edinburgh, and that is going to be Mayor Ramiro Garza Jr. And we thank you, sir, for hosting us and in this beautiful facility and for your hospitality.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Welcome to our beautiful city of Edinburgh. We really appreciate y'all coming out of Austin and going to different parts of the state. Our city now of 100,000 people, public safety is so important to us. And I want to thank Mr. Liscano and all those that had anything to do, our police chief, Ayala, that made this happen, and for y'all to be down here, we really appreciate it. And as the city of Edinburgh, we're strong supporters of our law enforcement, and we're going to continue. And we appreciate everything that you do for all our officers, not only here in our city, but the entire state of Texas. Thank you for being here.
And Sheriff? We have Sheriff Garrow, who would also like to say a few words.
Good morning, and again, welcome to one of the greatest counties in Texas, Hidalgo County. We really appreciate y'all coming down here and hosting your commission meeting. Again, y'all, you heard my speech last night. I want to echo what Senator Hinojosa said. Welcome to one of the safest parts of Texas, and that is because, first of all, the great work of not only my staff, but the great work of all our federal, state, local, and county partners. I also am glad to be in a sheriff in a county that the community supports law enforcement. So again, welcome, and we're glad you're here. We look forward to a great commission meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, my longtime friend, Edinburgh's Police Chief, Jaime Ayala.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome to the city of Edinburgh, a three-time All-America city. And I'll tell you, when Commissioner Liscano approached me last summer and said, the TCOLE board is coming to Edinburgh and we're going to have the meeting here, it just gave us a great deal of excitement, and we immediately rallied a committee together. Sheriff Guerra with the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office, the school district, Edinburgh Consolidated Independent School District Chief Rick Bettis, and the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley Chief Adan Cruz, and myself all came together and said, we want to make this special. We want to go beyond what the board typically sees in the meetings they go to across the state, and we got a little intelligence about what that was like. So hopefully you all had a little touch of the Rio Grande Valley between yesterday, last night, and this morning. And those treats would not have been available without some very dear sponsors that we were able to rally together. I just want to recognize them. J.D. Salinas and Mario Barragan with AT&T, J.P. Rodriguez with the Texas Municipal Police Association, the GEO Group, the Keefe Group, Gilbert Gonzalez with NCIC, Kevin and Laura Johnson, Target Texas, Mr. Leo Aguirre, and Francis Schultz with NCIC Inmate Phone Systems. And so the goodies that you saw yesterday, today, the dinner last night was all attributed because they stepped up and they wanted you all to enjoy the Rio Grande Valley and the city of Edinburgh. And there are a number of law enforcement agencies represented here today. If I began to mention some of my colleagues, I'd probably leave someone out. So I appreciate their support, the fact they're here to see. I don't know how many have been able to drive to Austin to go to a TCOLE board meeting, but the fact that you all are here, we can see the way the licensing commission that oversees us works, operates, functions, and how important it is for us to stay connected with what you do. So again, welcome to the city of Edinburgh. While you're still here throughout the day, if there's anything we can do to make your stay any more enjoyable, please let us know. Madam Chair, again, thank you for being here.
Wow, this is certainly illustrative of the warm welcome that we have received, and as I said, we're so honored and grateful and excited to be here. And I want to thank you for taking time to come out. TCOLE is your agency. We work closely with you on a daily basis, and we very much appreciate you coming out and being a part of the meeting today. I want to recognize fellow Commissioner Mario Liscano because you coordinated and put all of this together, sir, and this has been a fantastic and very productive trip, so please.
Thank you so much, and I just want to make sure that acknowledge the actual committee. They are really the ones that put everything together, the ones that were mentioned. It's wonderful to have the complete support from all different levels of law enforcement here, and not only here locally in the city, but county and state. It's important for us to make sure that we're continuing to support our law enforcement families. And I also want to acknowledge Ms. Priscilla Duran from Governor Abbott's office, who's with us today as well. Thank her for always coming over and supporting our efforts. And I'm glad that each and every one of you were here last night. And I know I just wish everyone safe travels on the way back. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to agenda item number 2, which is the approval of the minutes of the October 26th commission meeting. And do we have a motion?
A motion to adopt the meetings.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are now going to move to agenda item number 3, which is to receive the reports, and we are going to begin with our interim director, John Beecham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, good morning. This morning we'll start off with a recap of what we discussed in the workshop yesterday, but also kind of where we're at in general in relation to the sunset process. Recently, I appeared along with staff at the initial sunset hearing at the Capitol, and also later in that same week, we had a hearing before the House Appropriations, one of the House Appropriations subcommittees. In the sunset hearing, we'll go through that first. There were several issues, or at least topics of discussion that came up that could be generalized. One in relation to TCOLE's sunset report was a discussion of the Blue Ribbon Panel and the policy discussions that may or may not be included once the session is completed that may be assigned to that Blue Ribbon Panel. Also a great deal of discussion regarding the creation of small agencies and the criteria for doing so, and TCOLE's authority in relation to, and the discussion of whether there should be greater oversight or regulations or requirements for small agencies. And there was also a great deal of discussion regarding the F5 reports of separation. Later on, and there was a great deal of, positive public comment. We appreciate all the associations that showed up in support of TCOLE in response to the request for open comment at the sunset hearing. Later on that week in the House Appropriations Subcommittee hearing regarding the budget, TCOLE appeared with the Legislative Budget Board and also the Sunset staff regarding TCOLE's current budget, its previous budget, the use of general revenue and 116 funds, and there was discussion regarding TCOLE's exceptional items, specifically as it relates to the retention and recruitment of TCOLE staff, and specifically TCOLE's sworn staff. As an update where the next step in the sunset process, the final decision hearing will be in Austin on January 11th on the sunset hearing, and a link will be provided, and we will have one on the website if anyone wishes to watch it from there. We'll have that information available, so you won't have to search for it. We'll have it available for anybody who's either on the live stream in person, and obviously anybody who else wants to watch it. Next up, in relation to the sunset process, you'll be receiving an update on the management action items. We have one sole remaining management action items from the 2020 sunset report, and that relates to wrap-back subscriptions for all of our licensees. You'll be hearing from Major Vineyard in a few minutes. He'll give you a detailed rundown as to where we are in that process. Also want to kind of set up generally the information you have in your packet, and we discussed generally yesterday the annual training coordinator conference in Corpus Christi that we recently held in October. You'll see the conference customer satisfaction survey in your materials. Director Caprero will walk you through that here in a few moments when it's time for her report. There's some general takeaways. We have around a 90% overall satisfaction from those who responded to the survey. And as we discussed yesterday, we're going to follow up at the February meeting with you all with relation to options related to when and where and logistics related to the commission meeting, having the commission meeting during the week of the conference. And we'll bring those to you for further discussion and direction. Look forward to any questions you have about anything we've discussed.
Commissioners, any questions?
Madam Chair, maybe it might be more appropriate for Brian on Fund 116. What is the health of that one? If I remember right, I think it's
In general, it's declining.
Yeah.
I'll let Brian give you the specifics on it.
That's a great question.
The most recent report, while he gets his notes, the most recent report says 2030 will be the time 116 will be done.
Thank you. That's fine, Brian. That was what I was looking for. I knew it was not actuarially sound in the long term, and that's always an issue, but that is outside of our control. I don't have anything.
Any other questions? Okay, we are going to move on to you, Director Grissom, for the Credentialing, Education, and Field Services Report.
Good morning, Chief Lameau, Commissioners. Quick update on education services. We are still recruiting a new instructional designer to fill a recent leaving. So if somebody in the audience or in the field listening, we are actively recruiting an instructional design position. An update on the Cardiac Emergency Communications course, which we're producing online as a result of House Bill 786 from last session. We are about to launch that. Education Services has been working with Special Services on an innovative solution within the TCOLE system to check for eligibility, because there's a prerequisite to taking the course. Our system has not traditionally been set up to search for or exclude people based on prerequisites. So Jessica and her team and have been working on that solution, and it's something we'll be able to use long term. So we're looking forward to having the capacity to put prerequisites to attending one of our online courses. And Jessica may be able to give you some more information on that. We do have a team working on potential revision for basic and advanced instructor courses. In your materials is the outcome from a recent survey of 1,200 subscribers to the Education Services Bulletin using our new communication system. We have several subscription-based newsletters that we're putting out, one of which is Education Services. If you look at the responses, we have about a 10% response rate on the survey. We've got a few more since then, but the percentages haven't changed, and the responses, be happy to discuss any questions if those arise from that. There seems to be pretty broad acceptance that the way we make instructors in Texas for law enforcement training probably should change, probably should be updated, upgrade some of the skills, maybe use a multi-course sequence to get to that certificate so that we further professionalize the people who are actually teaching in our academies, and that's come up in several discussions outside the agency as well, who's teaching peace officers in Texas. In the credentialing realm, credentialing, field services, special services, and enforcement have put together a one-page process chart for the hiring and appointment process that we hope makes things a little easier to follow, with the background confirmation form and the things required and the sequencing of things now required in background checks. That was distributed to chief administrators. It will be in an update to the field services is currently working on an update to the chief administrator's desk reference, so we'll be publishing a new updated version of that. And we certainly encourage chief administrators and command staff specifically who are doing the recruitment function, training and recruiting, to seek out the desk reference on our website, and we've tried to put as much information as we can to make their jobs easier in interfacing with us as the commission. You have the statistics for about the last quarter in your notes from credentialing. I won't read those to you. If you have any questions based on that, we'd be happy to answer those. We are recruiting for 2 field service agents. This month will be Kerry McKinney's last month. He'll be retiring to be appointed the county judge in a recent election that he won for county judge of Anderson County. And Kerry has been a staple of the field services program, and he will be sorely missed, but we hope for good things in Anderson County. We have done interviews. I think we will be making offers to people in regions 5 and 6 of our new 10-region scheme. And so hopefully in January, we'll be onboarding 2 new field service agents, and field services will be whole at that point. That's all I have, unless you have any questions of me.
Commissioners, questions? We're going to go ahead and pause in the middle of agenda item number 3 here, and we've got some scheduling issues that we're trying to work around, so I'm going to go ahead and move to agenda item number 5, which is receiving some comments from the president of the Texas Police Chiefs Association, Chief Jimmy Perdue from North Richland Hills. You've heard me say this before, where the commission, both the staff and the commissioners, have made a commitment to increase our connectivity and also to build upon the relationships we have with constituents from across the state of Texas. And I know that the TCOLE staff has worked hard reaching out to several of the Chiefs Association, the Sheriff's Association, Constables Association, as well as some of the labor organizations, CLEAT, TMPA, to name 2. So that's part of what we're trying to do is to build upon these relationships. So we're very excited to have Chief Perdue with us today. He flew down specifically for this meeting and to also meet with several law enforcement agencies here in the Valley. So thank you so much, sir, for being here today.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. And Commissioners, good morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity to come speak to you all here this morning. I had planned to do a lot more prepared comments and speeches, but somebody kept me out too late last night. The generosity of South Texas was very nice, and I appreciate Chief Ayala and Sheriff Guerra for their hospitality, and for Commissioner Lozano, thank you very much for all that you've done to put this together. It's been a great event. As Kim mentioned, I am the chief of the North Richland Hills Police Department, which is, for those who don't know, is a suburb of Fort Worth. But for purposes of this presentation, I'm the president of the Texas Police Chiefs Association, an organization that's been around a while that advocates not only for law enforcement in general, but is trying to speak on behalf of the chiefs across Texas. And our goal is to try to be the voice of professional policing in Texas, because we want to make sure that we're representative of all the different aspects. One of the things I've discovered, I knew that I'm a lifelong Texan, grew up in Texas and lived in Texas my whole life, born out in Crane in the sheriff's area out there. I'm a West Texas boy by nature, and I love Texas, love everything about it. But until you take a leadership role on a statewide level, you don't realize how big this state is. When you're trying to communicate across a state and trying to represent members from Lubbock down to the border, East Texas, West Texas, There's a very diverse opinions about things, a lot of different aspects of what they think is the right way to do things. And so to try to bring all them together and to coalesce around a single issue is sometimes difficult. And I think that's one of the things that the Texas Police Chiefs Association is working very hard to do. I compliment TCOLE, particularly recently with Interim Director Beecham and the work that he's done. I tell you, I have talked more with the TCOLE commissioners, or I mean, it's for the staff, recently than I have many, many years. And that's a great thing because we are working through some issues. They call and ask for opinions and thoughts and ideas, and I appreciate that so much. We're able to impart some knowledge on them of our perspective on things. We don't agree on everything, and that's okay. We talked about that early on. Gretchen and I have had many good conversations of things that we don't necessarily agree on, but that's okay as well. The goal is to try to push our profession forward. The mission of the TPCA is exactly the same as it is for TCOLE, is to try to improve law enforcement in Texas. And I know that is the heart and soul of what this commission is all about as well. I was actually emboldened by yesterday the comment about the strategic plan and the transparency, communication, and innovation components of it. I agree with the commissioners who talked about wanting to make sure that those missions are specifically attached to the new executive director's performance. But I believe that is a key of making sure that we're staying on task. I'm a very documented, task-oriented type chief, and I believe for an organization of this size, you have to have those sort of things. So I applaud those three things. I think there are three things that are very important to the commission, very important to the direction of where we're trying to go and what I believe this commission is trying to push law enforcement going forward. And I think if we can continue that issue of transparency, of innovation, because candidly, the state government, of which TCOLE is kind of part and parcel of, is not historically known for being very innovative, but we think that there's a lot of things. I was giving a speech last week and talked about my journey in law enforcement. I've been having my 40th anniversary of law enforcement last month, and the things that I've seen changed over those 40 years is pretty phenomenal. And a lot of it has occurred in the last 10 or 15 years. And the dizzying pace by which things are going and the pace at which things are expecting people to get things done is pretty amazing. And I'm excited. I'm excited about where law enforcement is going. I'm excited about the future of law enforcement. But my challenge to all the officers, I was speaking on a graduation, was to make sure that people that are in this profession now are committed to what we're trying to do, that are committed to the vision and the mission that we are trying to do for Texas law enforcement officers. And I told those young officers that if you don't have the commitment to be in law enforcement, then I ask you to get out. Because frankly, we need people that are committed to what we're doing. And that's hard to say because we are all about recruiting and retention. I was one of my comments to make sure that this group understands that that is the single biggest issue that we face in law enforcement right now, is recruiting and retention. We'll deal with responding to crimes, we'll deal with the stuff that we have to do, but to get people to both come into our profession and then to stay in our profession is two of the most important things that we can do. I was listening to an economist the other day that talked about that human manpower, human personnel is the #1 product moving forward. That's where everybody needs, and so we need people. And so how does that come back to TCOLE? Well, it comes back to TCOLE because we need to make sure that people don't want to come into a profession they don't view as being properly managed and properly policed, if you will. They want to make sure that the commission, the people who are governing us, are also on the same page as us. And I would say that here recently, particularly under the current leadership, that we've made great strides in that way, and I appreciate what's being done. I'm looking forward to the process. I know on the executive director, we're excited about kind of that's moving forward and what's going to be occurring. Looking forward to working with whoever that person is moving forward. And we're looking forward to, well, I'll say looking forward to, but the legislative session coming up. When I took the presidency, I did the math and I calculated out that I knew I wasn't going to have a legislative presidency in my term, and then somebody quit halfway through, and I got stuck with one. So, because as you know, it's a lot of work, and we're there all the time, and we'll be there. But the good news is, unlike in years past, I'm confident that we're going to be working hand in glove with TCOLE. We're going to be communicating about things. Gretchen and I were just talking this morning about an issue that came up, and I was texting with somebody about it, and so within 15 minutes, we were able to resolve an issue that would have been a problem had we not had that line of communication. So I don't want to speak long. I'm like any chief, you give me a microphone and a topic and I can just go on. But I want to make sure that you understand that we as TPCA are here to support TCOLE. We are looking forward to the future of what we're doing together, and whatever we can do as an association to help this commission and the vision of this commission, we want to be here for you. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer any questions or opinions. But I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be here, and I appreciate all you're doing, and we are here as a resource for you. Madam?
Thank you. Questions, comments from commissioners?
Just want to say thank you for your support. And, you know, that whole conversation about a strategic plan, I know that the entire commission, we're dedicated to making sure we move forward in that direction. But thank you for being here, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. And welcome to the commission.
Thank you.
Chief, I just want to echo and say thank you. You know, you and I have testified at the Capitol a couple of times already during the interim session. I know the relationship has gotten better, so to John and staff and Gretchen, thank you guys so much for everything. Looking forward, like you said, a little bit to the next session. We're all going to be busy, but I'm very excited about our profession as we move forward. There's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming, but again, I think working hand in hand, I think things are going to be really good for us all. So thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And if I may, I agree with you that there are some changes that are coming, and I think for the most part they're good. I think that's the challenge that always is when the legislature is in session, is making sure that the changes that are desired are the changes that are actually done. The unintended consequence of some bills is one of the things that we have to work very hard to keep at. But we all recognize that there are things that need to happen. I'm the biggest advocate for advancing law enforcement professionalism. That's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure that every department in this state, as far and diverse as it is doing the job to make sure that we're protecting those officers at the ground level, that we're doing the things, and that they have the tools to protect the community. Because I think the community has a right to expect transparency, innovation, and accountability for officers, just like for this commission. So I think we're working hand in glove, and I think the state of Texas would be better because of their work together. So,
Any other comments?
I just want to say thank you, Chief, for coming out here and for, focusing on, like you said, the challenges that we're facing as a profession right now with recruitment and retention. I mean, that is hands down it. Those efforts that are underway by you and many others in that arena are vital to ensuring that we are providing the professionalism and the quality of service to our communities that we all represent and serve. And I don't think people understand the gravity of what happens when you don't have adequate staffing and professional staffing available to respond to people's needs and emergencies. So I just want to commend you and thank you for working on those efforts right now. So
thank you very much. It is a challenge because there's every chief around, they will tell you that staffing is the number one issue, just to find people and keep them, and to not be rating each other's departments from the department. And that comes back to salaries as well. I know that is a challenge. I know there's been some bills proposed about trying to set minimum salaries. That's difficult to do when you have such a diverse financial impact across the state, but I think there is some number that's probably appropriate to make sure that people are able to hire people at the right level. And I would say that's even more appropriate at the chief level. Obviously, as the Texas Police Chief Association, we're focused on the leadership aspect as well, and we think that there are some things that need to be in place on minimum qualifications for officers and for police chiefs, as well as minimum pay across the state, so that you're hiring people that at the right standards when you come in to lead those organizations, because leadership is important when it comes to results on the ground level.
I just have one quick comment to respond to what you said earlier about the great relationship now, especially that you're experiencing with Interim Director Beecham and the executive staff. I'd also like to say it's a nice change for us to have someone come forward and have such positive things to say and really show that your organization is wanting to work with us and help think through what solutions we can come up with. So thank you for that. Oftentimes when people come to the podium to meetings, it's to tell us all the things we're doing wrong, and it's nice to also hear something positive. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I can tell you the wrong things if you want me to, but no, I'm just kidding.
We'll work on that
Okay, all right,
behind
we'll do that
closed
later.
doors.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you again, sir, for being here.
Yes, ma'am.
And wish you safe travels home. Thank you for making the effort and taking the time to come down here. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it very much, and it'd get an honor, and whatever we can do to help along this journey, we're available and willing to help. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
We are going to go back to agenda item number 3 and pick up where we left off, which is with Director Capurro, and she's going to talk about our IT and special services areas.
Good morning, Commissioners. We did provide you with quite a large set of data regarding our conference survey feedback. I'm not going to dig entirely into that data, but I will just highlight a few key points. We had well over 1,100 people register for the conference, but we actually had 972 attendees that showed up, which was our highest no-show rate to date, like by far, which presents some challenges to us in planning, you know, the number of things to order. So that is something we will be looking at as we compile all of these results together, making recommendations and proposing some solutions to some of the other data that's included in this packet of information. A couple of other key things that are included in that packet are a marketing tool for our exhibitors. We hope to market to even more vendor presence at our conference next year. And then we performed a staff impact survey that had some interesting data that may influence some of our allocation of resources going forward. So I think this is a really good opportunity between now and our next meeting in February to welcome you commissioners to help influence the ways in which we compile this data to help us drive our data decision making and propose solutions and suggestions, feedback, comments, anything you have. I welcome it between now and February to help us build a final product for you. In addition to that, we have a major project going on, our cloud migration. This is one of those IT things that is very invisible in the background, but it's extremely important and extremely resource heavy. Our first wave of servers is currently migrating into the cloud. Something we've been working towards for over a year now, and we don't expect it to be complete until May, but completing this project satisfies one of the DIR recommendations made during our TCOLE's purchase to move our entire network infrastructure into the cloud to support the reliability of our network, the stability of our application uptime, and most importantly, our security posture. Like I said, that project is expected to be complete in May. Another thing we have going on, Colin mentioned the course that Education Services is creating for the online training system, which I'd like to bring it back to the strategic plan really quickly. The third goal of the strategic plan, the overarching theme, is innovation. Specifically, goal number 3.2.2 involves creating engaging content for our learning management platform. So that's one of those that we talked about in the workshop yesterday that doesn't move a lot
until suddenly it does. And so Education Services is wrapping up that content, but one of the innovative factors that we were able to participate in as a team was creating the prerequisite API. I won't go into too much technical talk, but APIs have been something that we've been visiting quite a bit lately. They're not new, groundbreaking, innovative technology, but they are very simple ways of interfacing separate applications, like our online training platform to our TCOLE system. But what it also does is it allows out external applications to interface with our TCOLE system. We've actually had 4 new consumers of our roster API, which is probably a little known thing. It doesn't serve to support most of the people who submit rosters to TCOLEs, but for those that do have online or learning management platforms outside of TCOLEs, this roster API does allow them to report directly into TCOLEd, saving them tons of effort and time. It's, like I said, not groundbreaking technology, but one small little move that really helps people and brings the TCOLEd's applications into a posture that's more expected of today's technology.
Jessica, I have a question on the API. So, you know, there are a number of learning management systems out there that people can do. When you build the API with that, is that going to be widely acceptable across the platforms? Because what I don't want to do is get into one of those things where we basically force people to use 2 LMSs, right? Or whatever it is it happens to be. I don't want to go back to the old TCOLE days where everybody's having to, well, if you want to have auto uploads, you better go with these 2 vendors. Right? I just want to be careful we're not going down that route.
We are not going down that route. Okay. This is very flexible.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as the agencies that have consumed our roster API, they have different platforms, all various different types of platforms. But the important thing is they have the in-house knowledge, or the vendor that they're working with has the knowledge to integrate an API.
Right, because you have to integrate on the other side too.
Yes.
Right? So that's part of it. The agency is going to have some ownership to do that. And if you're submitting a large number of rosters, right? So for my agency, we would be, right? I would probably go to our IT folks and say we need to make that connection. Right. Because if we're reporting in our LMS, then that's an auto push every night that we don't have to manually sit down and enter rosters to get in there. So I like that direction. It's going to be really good and save everyone a lot of time and errors that come in as well. So thank you.
Yes, the API does have validations built in error reporting feedback. So it's still, even though it's not the rosters aren't being entered directly into the TCOLE's interface, the data still has integrity. It's still being checked.
Thank you.
Part of what's allowed us to focus on things like this is the fact that we were granted resources through the last legislative session by way of additional staff. We've actually been expanding our development team, and it's been a challenge to recruit for our development team, but we're finally down to 1 vacancy on that team. Every time we add a person to that team, though, we have been expanding our capabilities to add these like little small innovations that have really big impacts on the agencies that we work with. And I just want to echo a lot of the sentiments that have been made today. TCOLE is really focused on connecting with the community that we work with, but from a technology perspective, we're very focused on that end user's experience and improving our systems so that they can be more accessible to our end users and easier to use. But going back to our staffing, we are hoping to fill that that vacancy soon. Like I said, it has been a challenge competing for developer positions in Austin. But it has actually taken us from the time the last legislative session ended to now, and we're about to go into another session just to get that far. But like I said, every time we add one person to the team, it just expands our capabilities even more. So the last thing I have is a reminder about racial profiling. The filing for the racial profiling data for 2022 begins on January 1st. We did send out an email to all department heads reminding them of that, and we will work towards ensuring 100% compliance with racial profiling as we have in the past.
Questions? Okay. Thank you so much, and we're going to move on to Director Vineyard for our enforcement report, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're still working on several ongoing projects. One of our focuses will always be training noncompliance, since that is by far the biggest impact as far as discipline that our agency has. We've continued meeting with the agencies who had the largest number of violations during the last round and working with them to get those numbers down, how to read the reports and steps they can take. We're planning our outreach, so we've already planned for direct licensee contact prior to the training deadline instead of after. We're going to be more proactive this time and have multiple attempts at contacting them. And then we're working on targeted plans, in particular identifying licensees who already have a prior reprimand, who have a greater risk of discipline. We'll look at the agencies, hopefully not the same agency we've been working with, but those who have the largest number of people in noncompliance several months out, reach out to them and help them develop similar plans and understand the risk that their agency takes in losing individuals. And part of that, again, everybody we've met with stresses recruiting and retention, how difficult that is, and I would hate for them to lose licensees to suspensions or even revocations over something like training noncompliance. And then we'll look for targeted information like those that are just missing the legislative update. Can we push out an email to them with a link to my TCOLE so that they can take it online for free and be in compliance right away? So all of that continues as part of the Target 100 initiative. We're also still working on case management system. Jessica and I have been meeting with vendors. We had one who came to Austin, actually did a demo for everyone in enforcement, and then we were able to have the developers conference and discuss the integration with TCOLE. So I think that is the most important thing. We want to make sure that it's less work for everyone in TCOLE, not more work, and that we're going to be able to capture useful information and data going forward. So some of the things that we're not able to capture now, that system will be capable of that. And we can adapt it to our needs. Cullen and I met with his captain over field services and my captain over enforcement and then the credentialing supervisor to discuss how that will impact all of our groups and make sure that everyone is going to have an easier workload with that system, that we integrate everybody's particular needs, and that the data that comes out of it will be useful to all of us. And so I feel like we're moving in the right direction with that project. Interim Executive Director Beecham mentioned that last management action item from Sunset, which is RATBAC. And we have been working, in particular, Crime Records at DPS has been very supportive in that effort of identifying where we are, how we can clean up those people that we do have in the system, and then the steps we can take going forward. My goal would be by February to be able to give you a percentage of total licensees that we're currently subscribed to, active licensees, and then each meeting after that be able to report the steps of increasing that number. I think that we'll have a substantial number of active licensees currently in the system. We can easily take steps to make sure that all new licensees are being added, and then we're going to go back in stages and start to capture that population which is already in the system but is not currently subscribed, and then those who were never subscribed, and how we can get that subscription. So it will be in stages, but I think we can see that as a percentage of active licensees that are currently subscribed. And the last thing that I wanted to mention was we did a all-staff safety training. We had some discussions as executive staff. There have been some property crimes at or around our office building, and then at some of our as we travel more and more, there's been discussions about what do we do as an agency, and is everyone in our agency prepared for those possibilities? So we had a training to start that discussion. I think it was a very positive event, and there was a lot of feedback from employees on future training that they would like to do as a group or individually, so that they're safer both at the office and at home, and then particularly when we're at events outside the office. Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Major, so in the rat back, I mean, that can be a monster, right? It's an ongoing cleanup and watch, and when, you know, there's gonna have to be a way to unsubscribe people when you get, F5s done, right? And so it's just, I guess, just to make sure when you are planning of what that looks like, just, it can get out of hand quick. And then when you come in for an audit, or not when you come in, when the Bureau comes in for an audit, it can get pretty bad. So, when you're thinking through that, just remember that back-end work that it's gonna take, to do that.
And that's where we started. That was our biggest concern, is to make sure that we could meet the expectations of the FBI, be able to unsubscribe people within 3 days. But we will manage subscriptions of active licensees, even if they're not currently appointed, as long as their license is active. So that makes it simpler. We'll have to remove them on suspension, revocation, cancellation, but those events are relatively limited. And then when licenses go inactive at the end of a training deadline, that's when we'll have to remove large groups of people. So the challenge for us was how quickly we can report that, because we wait the 30 days for late training rosters to come in before we place people in inactive status. But again, working with DPS, we came up with a plan. We'll just remove all of the people who were possibly inactive. And at the end of that 30 days, if there are some who came in on a late roster, we can resubscribe to those. We can capture whatever data we missed in that 30-day window, and then we can continue with the same process we use everywhere else. We have a third admin position in enforcement, which is not filled, but we're doing interviews this month. And the goal will be that adding that position, that person's primary responsibility will be wrap back and E1 cases. And so understanding the workload that comes with that, and managing even just the daily information that comes in, having someone who that's their primary responsibility, I think will simplify that.
And then the other one too, since you bring up the 30 days at the end, you know, that just extends everything out, right? You know, by the time you get it, you get the letter to go out, you know, there's Colin's, we're probably all feeling the same pain with that, but I don't know if there's a good answer to that. Maybe API will fix that, right? Hopefully it will. My last question is probably, since Brian is sitting next to you, you mentioned that you were doing vendor demos for an LMS. Was that what it was? Was it a new LMS?
Case management system.
Case management, okay. One of the things that was brought up in previous sunset report from last time was our contract management and those things like that. So, Brian, I'm looking at you. Are we complying with all of those state purchasing requirements and the policies that we put into place as a result of last sunset's process?
Yes, we are. And since that time, Jessica and her team have done a great job of getting the mandated training on contract development and contract management. They're both certified at 2 different levels through the state.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Other questions?
Hey, give me that shifty outlook.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on, and I don't know, do you have anything for us, Director Grigsby? I know you haven't kind of had this lull in downtime recently, so.
Madam Chair, I don't have a whole lot to report, so if we want to go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, that's fine. No, as we've said a million different times over the last 2.5 years, the sunset process is ongoing, and there's been, I think, a tremendous amount of work on staff's part and on the Sunset Commission staff's part. Got to give a lot of credit to them. They do their work with a high level of professionalism, and they're very sharp folks, and so it's a pleasure to work with them. As you mentioned, our Sunset Report was released on November 17th, and we hit the ground running from there. We had quite a few follow-up meetings with the members of the Sunset Commission and their staff, and your executive team has spent a lot of time at the Capitol on that very topic. The hearing on December the 6th, I think it's safe to say, went very well. Director Beecham and Commissioner Hester both gave remarks and were very well received. We've already talked about the primary themes of that hearing, but the one thing that I will add to that is that we are awaiting modifications to the recommendations that will be voted on at the decision meeting on January the 11th. And so we'll be continuing to have conversations with the legislative offices on what those modifications might be between now and then. They've got to turn them in this coming Monday, the 19th. And so we will continue in those discussions. I want to touch on something that's already been discussed today, the wrap back recommendation from the current report that we're working on. Great credit to TJ and his staff. We have been able to say that we are actively not just waiting to see if this recommendation passes, but actively working to remedy it, potentially even before the end of the legislative session, in a phased approach, of course. It's not going to ever be a completed process, but knowing that we're showing due diligence there, I think says a lot for our agency. Of course, Sunset isn't the only thing happening this legislative session. Bill filing started on November the 14th, and as of this morning, there have been 1,340 bills filed. 11 of those touch TCOLE in some way or another, and so there's a couple of training-related things. There's a recommendation that all law enforcement agencies go through an accreditation process of some sort through one of the various entities that are out there that do that. And so we'll continue in our discussions with the legislators authoring those bills and look forward to what more may come. In addition to all legislative items, of course, we've got our ongoing recognitions programs. You've got some numbers in your packet on the flags that we've distributed. I do want to point out that we had sent out an email since the October meeting reminding all licensees, all elected officials, all chief administrators that they are eligible to nominate folks for the Law Enforcement Achievement Awards. Again, those are in the categories of valor, public service, and professional achievement.
Okay, I'm going to do my annual push here.
Yes, ma'am. Folks,
Anyone can make the nomination. There's a process it has to go through, but we have some incredible, amazing law enforcement officers and sheriffs and constables that are doing incredible work, along with jailers and dispatchers, and we owe them. We all owe them, whether you're a colleague, whether you're a peer, whether you're a supervisor, whether you're a head of an agency. We have an obligation to recognize the work that's being done, and it's on us to do that. So please, I know it takes some time. It takes some time and some effort to make the nominations, but I would challenge everyone who's here in attendance today and those that have joined us online to please, let's recognize the great work that's being done. So thank you.
So to that end, since September 1st, we've received 70 nominations for the Law Enforcement Achievement Awards. I have had a couple of conversations just this week on who may nominate somebody and when are the nominations due. We've talked about the answer to the first part of who may nominate, but the nominations will be accepted through January the 15th. So we look forward to the great slate of candidates that we've got there. And we have been assembling a judging panel, trying to put some good thought into who would be the best, what would be the best makeup of that panel. And so we've put some intentionality into that. We will have a public member, we will have a constable, a sheriff, a chief of police, and we were looking forward to putting that together and getting the great nominations that we will be received over to that panel so that we can have them before you well in advance of the plan for the June ceremony. In addition to that, of course, we've got the Peace Officers Memorial that we handle, and that will be held, I've mentioned this before, excuse me, not August 30th, April 30th in this coming year. And there will be 43 current year and 9 historical names before you on the next agenda item. And so those will be the ones nominated for the wall for this upcoming ceremony. Any names that have not made it onto this list, that hopefully there will be none, but that happen between now and the end of the year, will be before you at the February meeting. One other item of what to expect during the legislative session, of course, we want to keep in regular communication with our regulated population and with you. You as commissioners will receive an update at least weekly, and then more often as items come up of interest that are critical during the week. So you can expect to see at least a Friday email each week, kind of recapping what's happened and then looking forward to the following week of events that we know are upcoming. That concludes one other item, excuse me. My colleagues have mentioned some vacancies that we've got at the agency. One of those in my division is the Public Information Coordinator. And so just want to put that out there that that is a critical need for any state agency for open records purposes. Just want to put that out there that we have that position open as well. And that is the end of my report, unless you have any questions.
Questions?
Just a comment. I'm glad to hear that our staff is taking the initiative of going ahead and implementing changes, whether they're going to be final or not. If it's something that it looks like we need to be doing, we're going ahead and doing it. And obviously we did that from the last report that came out from Sunset, and now you guys are doing it with the latest report with some of the tweaks there. I know it is a big deal and noticed, given some of the comments at the hearing that were made. Well, is TCOLE actually implementing these things? And kind of there was some negative tone there that we're kind of resistant to change or something to that effect. And like I said yesterday, it was excellent to hear, not from Mr. Beecham, not from TCOLE, to hear from the staff. Why, yes, TCOLE implemented this already. They've done all the things. It was from the prior report. Again, that nothing's finalized yet, and we're already up to date on these things. So I commend all the staff for getting on that quickly. I think that reflects very well on us. So thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, ma'am. And we are going to go to Brian Roth with our finance report.
Good morning, Commissioners. You have in your packet the normal financial report, including expenditures and revenue. As you know, we're in our second quarter of the fiscal year. Going to HR operations, we've been busy so far this fiscal year. We've hired 6 new employees, and we're getting them trained up. Currently, as some of the other directors have mentioned, we've got several job openings, which total 7 at the current point, and they're all in various stages of being filled, such as the FSA positions are close. That is roughly 10% of our FTE count. So we've got several positions, and I'll echo what Gretchen said. If anybody's interested, go out and check our website. We've got 7 great positions that might be a good fit for you or someone that you know is a good candidate. In financial operations, we are on our 3rd iteration of a school marshal grant. We've got about $40,000 left in that. It is 87% complete. We have a 4th school marshal grant set up, ready to go. We just need to hit the apply button and hopefully see if we get that. It is also one of our exceptional items. So we realize the importance of this training, so we're kind of taking 2 separate tracks to make sure that it gets funded in one way or another. Since our last meeting in the Finance Division, we have completed a program review of the school marshal grant, an audit by the Governor's Office. We renewed insurance policies on our property, submitted an annual financial report, a semi-annual property report, trained those new staff that have come online, and completed various other financial reports. What we're currently working on are those things involved in the sunset process and the strategic fiscal review, which Executive Director Beecham mentioned in our last meeting. We had a combined sunset LBB meeting, and that is the fiscal review, apart from the LBB. We've completed hub reports. We're working on end-of-year calendar items like W-2s for employees, that kind of thing. Working on a disaster federal funds report, helping out with IT procurements, and a report of non-financial data. And as Gretchen had mentioned, the session is starting to build, and we're getting some fiscal note requests, which we're looking into. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a wrap-up comment related to all of the reports. You're off the hook right now, Brian. I want to, again, I'm being very congratulatory today, which is quite nice. I want to thank the staff for putting together a really good, thorough notebook for us. Typically, there would be, we did have a fair amount of discussion about some of these things yesterday in the workshop, and so there's not too much more to go over today. So if those of you that are in the audience weren't here yesterday, there was a lot more discussion by all of the commissioners and the staff yesterday related to a lot of these topics. Overall, though, it's nice that you don't have to sit there and tell us everything that's going on, and we're hearing it for the first time when we're sitting up here, which used to really irritate us. We're getting it put together in these great ways with your reports, with the data to back things up across the board. I can only speak for myself, but I'm really appreciating the amount of time and effort that's going into putting reports together. We know it takes time to do it for every meeting, and sometimes it's kind of a pain, but so many of our questions are answered ahead of time, and we can just do some target questions by the time we get to today. So for me, thank you all. I know you're going to keep improving, because I can see it from meeting to meeting how the packet is morphing in ways that are unexpected and appreciated. So thank you all for that.
I just had one comment, Brian. We have 3 school marshals scheduled, January, I think March and June, so we will be dipping into that grant. I'm glad to hear we got another one, so it is something that's needed out there, and we're getting my first class in January is full. I think we have 22, so yes. Wow. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Actually, let me wrap up with one more thing. I keep complimenting all the staff, and I'm looking down here at you all, and I also should be looking to my right to our GC/interim executive director. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but not really in any kind of an open public setting. But clearly, the way staff works, it starts at the top. And I have definitely seen an improvement in communications, which, again, the commission has been very vocal about needing more communication, and we are definitely receiving that from you with timely information, and that is so appreciated. Just I want to thank you for your work. We know you're carrying a lot with 2 hats up here with us as our GC, but also leading the staff in the agency. So thank you.
And I want to once again thank the TCOLE staff. It's a lot of work to get ready for a meeting. It's a lot of work to get ready for a meeting in Austin, and it's a lot more work to get ready for a meeting and manage all the logistics of of traveling and not being at home. So thank you very much for all of the work that you do on all of the meetings, but in particular the ones where we travel. I know that there's a lot of extra moving parts and pieces for you, and we appreciate it very, very much, so thank you. Regarding agenda item number 3, does anyone wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the reports as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and we are now going to move to agenda item number 4, which will be, okay, we are going to, before we move to agenda item number 4, we are going to take a quick 10-minute break, please.